Are you a professional pillow fighter? Or a 9-to-5 low-cost time travel agent? Or maybe real estate sales on Mars is your profession? It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you do, however complex or intricate, Monday.com can help you organize, orchestrate, and make it more efficient. Monday.com is the one centralized platform for everything work-related. And with Monday.com, work is just easier. Monday.com, for whatever you run. Go to Monday.com to learn more.
Star attraction, the one you came to see. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Hi, Paul. Well, I don't say who the guest is. So, okay. Welcome to Kill Me Now. This is a very special episode because I'm still in Los Angeles. I don't have... Hennessy is not here. Hennessy's my co-host. She's not here. You can talk. And, he's not here. He is a pre-op tranny. And I always mess it up and say he... I always say she when I really mean he. And so welcome...
He was a guest on my podcast.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Did you
Love him.
Screw it up?
Love him. I did when I posted the description of the episode, and I felt terrible, but I think he understands.
Oh, he does. Yeah. So I am here with the incredible, the talented, the smart.
Let me ease my pants off.
Okay. Ow. I haven't had anything in there in a while. Ow. All right. And he's an all-around person, like a human being. And we don't find that in the comedy world. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Gilmartin. Yay! Woo! Welcome to Kill Me Now, Paul.
I'm so excited to be here, Judy.
Now, Paul, as you know, I don't know if you know, but Kill Me Now, I basically have no radical acceptance of any sort of things that happen in life. So my podcast is basically about all the things that piss you off. So I just actually had a Kill Me Now moment when... today's my son's 15th birthday, and he's at sleepaway camp, and I've never not talked to my son on his birthday. So I sent in the money for the pizza party, and I just called because he didn't call me this afternoon, and they told me he was going to call me, and they went out. Like, the whole bunk went out for dinner and a movie. And I'm like, but it's his birthday. And they're like, oh, sorry. No, not oh, sorry. I made these arrangements. So then I said, can he call me tonight when he gets back? Well, that's 10:30. So what? I'm a comic. He's up till 2 a.m. with me. So I didn't get to say happy birthday to my baby boy.
That's got to kill you.
I know, right?
Yeah. He's your boy.
I know.
He's your boy. He's your baby. It doesn't matter how old he is. He's still your baby.
And even though he's 6'5", he's still a baby.
Does everybody ask him if he plays basketball?
Well, he does. And yes.
Yeah.
But everyone asked me if I played basketball.
And did you?
In 7th grade, Wayne Carrick, who was our gym teacher. Now, granted, I was 6 feet in 8th grade, so I must have been about 5'9" at this point. He tells me I'm too tall for the team and it wouldn't be fair to the other players. Now, he couldn't say, you're uncoordinated, which I wasn't, or that he was anti-Semitic. There were a lot of anti-Semitic people in our town. But no, he says I'm too tall and it wouldn't be fair. And I ended up just being a band nerd. I was in the marching band. But my kids are really athletic, and I took them out to play basketball all the time, but I have no skills. I love tennis.
The nice thing about you being in the marching band is everyone could clearly see your head and your instrument.
Right. And what happened was I wanted to be the drum major. Like, that was my life goal at the time. And I think, well, one, this will be good for your podcast, but so to audition to be the drum major, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had to conduct the Star Spangled Banner, like in front of the principal and superintendent, and and people auditioned, and I was perfect because I was so tall. I was 6'2" or 6'3". I shrunk. And I ended up majoring in music. I mean, I was a musician. I was first chair clarinet, whatever. It was stupid. Anyway, but I get up. Okay, everyone's in the back of the room. I lift my baton. Now, you know when do you ever play in a band or anything, or in an orchestra?
Just garage bands, but not.
So when you're in a band, an orchestra, you lift the baton. That means instruments up, and then you do this little thing with your hands where it's like, and then once you hit the downbeat is when you begin. Mm-hmm. So I lift up my hands, I go for the up, and one of the drummers yells Sasquatch really loud. I'm glad that's funny for you. It's not funny. I hate you. And then I
Tragedy
had to
plus time, Judy.
And then I was so humiliated. But the problem, it's like I had to conduct the thing after that.
You must have been out of your body at that point.
It was like I had been humiliated so much my entire childhood. And I was just like, here I am in the band room, right?
The place that's supposed to be safe.
My safe haven. And Bobby Kamenecki. And then Rosemary Dombrowski gets to be drum major.
I love that the names of people in childhood stories are always so... a name you've never heard of before.
Right.
Why is that? It's never like Bob Miller.
Right. No. Yeah, because someone named like John Doe isn't an asshole. Right?
He's dead. How could he be an asshole?
I know. Is John Doe dead?
Isn't that what they always call a body that doesn't have an identity?
Oh, yeah,
John
that's
Doe.
true.
Yeah.
Jane Doe and John Doe.
Yeah.
Why would they pick Jane Doe? I mean, why does she have to be like an appendage of him?
And why wouldn't it be Jane Doe and Tarzan Doe?
Yeah, exactly. Fuck. Now, Paul.
Judy.
You went to IU, and my son goes to IU.
Loved my experience at IU.
You did. He loves it.
Such a beautiful campus.
That place is, and they have a great club there, the comedy club there.
Oh, it's.
That's one of the best clubs in the country.
It really is. It's run well. The audiences are smart.
Yeah. I mean, I was there and I thought they're going to hate me because I'm a Jew and I'm a dyke and I'm a Jew and a dyke and a Jew, and they didn't, and a Democrat, and they didn't.
No, it's a college town.
I know.
You go 5 minutes outside of it.
Then I'd be shot.
And you would be shot.
Thank you.
You would be shot.
So you were pre-med, and then you switched
to theater. That was a fun phone call home.
So can we redo that phone call? Who answered the phone?
I don't remember, but my parents had always told me, do what you love.
Right.
And chances are you'll do it well, and the money will take care of it.
Right.
And
so they're not Jewish. Okay, go.
And they said, the only thing we ask you to not go into is advertising.
Why? They
knew somebody who was in advertising that was miserable. And I have to say, the little bit of, I wrote marketing copy for the WB network when it first launched. And I now know what they mean. Even though I work with great people, it's still it's just this game that you are basically writing things, a style that should have been gone 20 years ago. But advertising they will not try something new. Like just now on advertising, they're using the phrase "the bomb."
Right.
That's it in a nutshell. So I was pre-med. I was getting ready to take the MCATs, which are the exams.
And did you have really good grades?
I did. I was on Dean's List every semester.
Wow.
I buckled down because I was a shitty student in high school.
Can you tell my son to do that? All right, go ahead.
And they had a stand-up competition at the campus. And I thought, I want to enter that. But I'm so afraid of being on stage.
Right.
I thought, I'll take an acting class. That'll get me used to it. And I fell in love with acting. And I just had this epiphany one day where I was like, what if I'm 35 years old and I get cancer? Will I look back on my life and say, I feel like I lived it to my fullest.
Right.
And I said, no, I will feel like I wasted something that is inside me that wants to be more creative.
Right.
And so I said, fuck it. And I changed my major to theater. I tried to make my living as an actor when I got out of college, but
Right.
it's really hard, especially when you're not a good actor.
Did you do it in Chicago where you grew up?
I did a little
right.
bit, a little play here and there.
Right.
I studied at the Second City Training Program.
Right.
I really wanted to be invited to join the troupe. I was not. And so it was like, and even though my dream as a kid from like 10 to 12, around 10 or 12 years old, was to be a TV host and a comic, I was
Right.
so afraid of being on stage by myself.
Wow.
But I finally had no other options.
Right.
And so I'm glad. I'm glad that nothing else worked out. And so I
Right.
started doing stand-up, and within a year of doing open mics, I was able to quit my day job. Because, this was 1987, 88.
Right.
You didn't have to be good. There were so many
Right.
comedy clubs, and you got so much stage time that you couldn't help but
Yeah, we
improve.
did get a lot of stage time in the beginning. I actually started stand-up on a dare, too. Well, you didn't do it on a dare. You dared yourself. But my Secret Santa, dared me to do it. I didn't know who it was at the time. But anyway, and that's how I started doing it. But it's interesting about when you turn to 35, like, and I feel like I do that all the time, but I add 10 years, like, not like, what's his name? Who's the one, Matthew McConaughey, who's like, who would you like to meet? I'd like to meet myself. And remember he said that?
No, I don't.
Oh, he's such a fucking egomaniac.
Did he have his
said,
shirt off when he
who
said
was
it?
your hero or something? Or no, and it was when he was accepting an Academy Award or something, and he said, I like, who would you like to meet or something? And he said, yeah, I'd like to meet myself. And shut the fuck up. Anyway, so, but I love being on stage by myself.
It's nice because I always tell people it's, depending on the night, it's the greatest job in the world or the worst job in the world.
Right. It's true. Now, you grew up and you loved Johnny Carson.
I did. How'd you know that?
I do a lot of research.
That's a shitload of research.
I know. That's what I do. I love people. I have to know what makes them tick. You love Johnny. You love hockey.
I do.
Uh-huh. And you're a woodworker.
Yes.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what about Johnny did you love?
I loved how he treated the camera as if it was a person.
Right.
And when I started doing dinner and a movie, I had never really had much on camera, actually no on camera experience aside from doing stand-up, which is completely different.
Right.
And I stole from him some of the ways that he would look at the camera where you knew what he was saying without him having to say anything.
Right.
Because my co-host and I, the reason they cast us together is we were like oil and water.
Was that Annabelle?
And I couldn't see that
Right.
for a while. And then I realized instead of fighting it and being frustrated that I should use it. And so I started treating the camera as if it was a third person
Right.
there. And I think that's when the show started to take on its
But
chemistry.
did she do it as long as you did?
No.
16? You did 16 years.
16 years. She did 7.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think you were like oil and water?
I mean, you could paint it really broadly and say she's from the coast and I'm from a flyover state.
Right.
That's probably the most general way to say it. I would have said that she was pretentious and she would have said that I was naive. And the truth is probably somewhere
in the middle,
in between. And also, both of us, I think, were living with undiagnosed depression.
Right.
And I was very insecure. I worried so much about what other people were going to think. I took myself too seriously. I could be mean to her, but I couldn't see that I was being mean.
Right.
And I think she couldn't see that she was being a certain way to me. But we've since patched things up. I had her as a guest on my podcast.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
So you who did the patch up call?
Yes. It just kind of slowly, by the time she had left the show, we had become civil.
Right.
towards each other, and now we feel.
Don't you have like a
fondness.
bond?
Yes, we do. It's so much easier to look back on things and to have a perspective about it than when you're in it, because
Right.
you think this
please.
is life or death.
Right.
It was a cooking show where we showed the Breakfast Club and
Right.
made chicken.
Right.
But at the time, it was like, oh, my life depends on
Right. Of
this
course.
moment.
This is the moment. So wait, now who took her place?
Lisa Kuchel. Her name is now Lisa Arch, and we became really good friends. She was there for 4 years, and then Janet Varney did the last, 7 years, something like that. And
Why do you think they kept getting replaced and you didn't?
I don't know. Probably
Because you have a penis.
yeah.
Really?
Honestly, I definitely think that has something to do with it.
So were they younger? Did they come in younger? The
Yes.
women?
Yeah, the
Oh,
person
that's
who
interesting.
would come in was
Younger than the
always
previous.
younger. Yeah, and another thing that had to do with it was, it would be a regime change, and
Right.
people always want to put their stamp on.
Oh, I
things.
know.
But they were all great. They all brought something different
Right.
to it. So it
Do you
was,
cook now?
I actually, at Blue Apron, started sponsoring our
They did?
show, and so I've been cooking their stuff. But other than that, I don't cook at
All right, can we just talk about Blue Apron for 1 second?
Great.
It's really great, but it doesn't take 15 fucking minutes to prepare, okay? They lie about preparation time.
No, they say the prep time is like 10 minutes, and then the cooking time is like
No.
20 minutes. That's what it says on the card.
Right. And the prep time is always like, I'm chopping, I'm doing this shit, I'm, crushing the garlic. I'm telling you, it does not
I
take.
think you really are uncoordinated because I do it in 10 minutes. What do you think of that?
I think you're a fucking asshole, okay? You may.
How
What?
have our paths never really crossed?
But
until
I've
now?
always known who you are.
I've always known who you are. I
don't know.
remember.
Wait,
my
you
wife
go.
and I were laughing about your spit curls.
Oh,
It's
God,
Judy.
please. It's Judy's show. I know, but we never really. Did we ever work together, like in Montreal?
No, not that I remember.
And did you ever spend a lot of time in New York City?
No, that's probably
That's why.
Yeah.
And then you were out here. You moved from. You went Chicago, Bloomington, Indiana, Chicago, and then L.A.
My God, you do your research.
I do my research, oh yeah. And you never wanted to go to New York? Don't you think
No.
you would have? You're so mental. Don't you think you would have been you would have fit in better
What
in
I
New
think-
York?
I think I was tired of winters, honestly.
Yeah.
And I knew there was more TV opportunities because
In L.A., yeah.
And
And
I thought I really wanted to do sitcoms, and then I started auditioning for sitcoms, and I realized any acting ability I might have is not meant for
A sitcom.
And I would just have a knot in my stomach. I hated most of it because I thought it was so phony, and it was
Right.
all about the joke. There was never any
Oh, yeah.
truth to
Right.
the moments, and so I think I wasn't very good at hiding my disgust.
Right.
And I realized that I do like hosting, but only if I can be myself.
Right. And so you met your wife doing stand-up.
Yeah.
Where?
I had known who she was because I'd seen her do stand-up before I ever did stand-up. And so when our paths crossed at the Comedy Womb in Chicago.
Comedy Womb.
Yeah. I asked her out on a date. Actually, I got her number from a mutual friend, and I called her. And that was December 13th, 1987.
And you hate the winter, but yet something great happened in the wintertime.
That's true. That's true. Also, a lot of shitty things happen in the winter.
So is she still doing stand-up?
No, she's a writer.
Okay.
She's a writer. She always hated doing stand-up, but she knew it was a vehicle to write. Yeah, she's...
See, there were a lot of people that used it as a vehicle for something else, but I always just wanted to be a stand-up.
It's such a great art form.
Isn't it?
There's nothing more lean and more pure than stand-up.
Right. So when I started doing sitcom shit, I was like, because that's all I ever wanted. And then I started doing it, and I'm like, all I want to do is run out and do a set.
Yeah.
Like I was on Margaret's show, and I used to constantly run out at night. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I had to do it for my mental health.
Yeah. The freedom is so
Right.
amazing. In fact, speaking of Bloomington, I'd been hired to do a corporate gig. This was like 10 years ago. And I hate doing corporate gigs because I have to edit so much of my set. And it was for a really conservative group of people because it was just outside of Bloomington.
Right.
And you ever open really strong and then you can follow yourself?
Yes.
So before I got on stage.
I mean, not anymore.
Before I got on stage, there was a slideshow of people's pictures who were getting awards for this company. And to start off, I asked them to put the slides back up, and then I just made fun of each person and what I imagined their lives were like. And of course, they
loved it because they were the center of attention. Yeah.
And then I went into my act and just struggled for 35 minutes.
Yeah, you could have closed with that.
Oh.
You should have closed with it.
And then I went and did a set at
Comedy Addict?
And
killed.
And I didn't even necessarily kill. I did well, but I was able to do material I wanted to do. And it felt like I was in a jacuzzi. It was just so comforting, and it was so... it was that reason that we started out to do stand-up is to feel heard and seen and felt. And
to have a voice. And just be like, you know what? You're not telling me who I am. I'm telling you who I am. Yeah. So that's really interesting that you... now I would want to go back and, do my fucking material first and then go do the slideshow. I hate when that happens.
I would not want to go back on that route.
Because it was all about them. It's all about them. So, and people don't realize that when you're a comic and you go to them, it always sucks. The cards are stacked against you. When they come to you, then you have the power.
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking hate them. I want to kill them. All right. So you're Richard Martin character.
Yes.
Where you're a right-wing
congressman.
Are you really right-winging?
Oh, no. It's my picket sign. It's my protest.
And it's really right-winging.
Oh, yeah. Although the Republican Party has caught up to the ridiculousness of the character.
Oh, because originally they were really into it, right? Or they... Wouldn't you get mail and stuff about...
People would think that the character was real.
Right.
Even back then. They would get it after a while, but some people would not get it. But now it's people still get that it's satire, but in reality, the things that the characters say, the politicians say nowadays, are every bit as ridiculous as the things that almost made this character cartoony.
Right.
Because I started doing it in 2004. And this was before there was a Stephen Colbert doing his character. So people hadn't really seen something like this.
Right.
So they didn't really know what to make of it. But the people that got it right away, there was something kind of cathartic about it for them because it was like, oh, we can laugh about this. We don't have to be
angry
24 hours a day about it. And I did it just to stay sane.
Right. Can you fucking believe what's going on right now?
I can, but I also can't. It's
shocking. It's shocking because you're my age and you grow up and you see all the obstacles and the things that we fought for being just, the fact that fucking asshole, now he wants Hillary Clinton. Like, how does he not get arrested for saying, like, go shoot Hillary Clinton?
He's mentally ill. And the other thing is people that like him, it's not a logical thing. It's an emotional thing.
Right.
I truly think people that love and believe Fox News, I tweeted this.
Right.
When people say I love Fox News, I hear I've never been to therapy.
Oh, I know.
It's an emotional thing.
And they lie. Like, this is what I don't get. They fucking lie. Wait, you can go.
Here's what they go to their website, and here's how they get away with their lies is they'll put something and then they'll put a question mark after it. But to the person who loves Fox News, they don't believe there's any question mark.
Right.
They just go, oh, well, they wouldn't have that bit of information if it wasn't
true.
It just hasn't been proved yet.
And also, they take little snippets
Yes.
of what they say. Like when Hillary said that thing about, what can we do about it now? They took that completely about Benghazi. They took it completely out of context. I mean, the woman is so qualified, overqualified for this fucking job. And people are like, well, she wants it too much. Don't you want someone who wants the job? Like, what the fuck is the matter with you?
I want somebody who wants the job for the right reasons.
Right.
I want somebody who wants the job not because they want to be able to say, I was president, but because they see where the country needs change. And I think there's a part of her that wants that, but I also think there's a part of her that is way too willing to compromise and allow corporations to run our country. And that's where the biggest change needs.
Right.
I mean, she says that she wants to overturn Citizens United.
They have to overturn. That's what's ruined our country. Do you see what's happened since that passed?
And
Donald Trump is our nominee.
And the other thing that really needs, a Glass-Steagall needs to be reinstated because that opened the door for so much abuse on Wall Street.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But
all right. So you're doing...
So the character is the only way I really perform anymore other than...
So you don't do stand-up?
No. About 5 years ago, I just realized I don't like being in comedy clubs doing straight stand-up.
It's hard when you get older.
It is.
Because you look and they're like 20 and you're like, yeah, no.
And for me, more than anything, it's the older I get, the more I like being vulnerable and talking about what's really important to me. And for me, the biggest thing was a comedy club isn't a safe place to talk about that anymore. There are some comics who can be vulnerable on stage. Richard Pryor, Louis Anderson. I've never had the guts to be really vulnerable on stage. And I found when I started doing the podcast that, this is...
Yeah, it's a great medium.
It's the safest medium.
I said the word medium. When they told you that...
It also helped that nobody was interested in seeing me do regular stand-up.
Right. When they canceled Dinner and a Movie, now you suffer from clinical depression, as do I.
Treatment-resistant clinical depression.
Oh, that's good, because maybe I have treatment-resistant. Because it took me years to get out of my own. I only had one huge bout with it, and it was hell. But I had to go to the therapy. Was what? The cognitive behavioral therapy.
That helped.
Yeah. You don't like tools, I know.
Oh, I love tools.
Oh, I thought. I
no.
read an interview, and the interviewer didn't like tools.
Yeah, no,
I asked for tools.
I'm alive today because of tools.
That's what I go in. I'm like, can you just tell me? Well, what's the tool to fix? Okay. So when they canceled, did you 16 years on a show? Were you freaked out when they canceled it?
Oddly, I wasn't. I got sober in 2003. The show got canceled in 2011. So I had
8 years.
8 years under my belt of learning the most important tool, which is to not obsess about things you have no control over.
Right, yes.
And to also trust that there is some path for me if I live my life honestly and just make the right spiritual decision.
Right.
That something is going to work out that's meant to be. And I found that to be the case because I started doing the podcast in 2011, not anticipating that the show was going to be canceled, just because I thought somebody needs to talk about mental health in a way that's sometimes funny, sometimes really raw and dark. And it just kind of took off. And so when the show went away, I was like, oh, good. Now I get to do the podcast full time.
You're so lucky.
I loved the people that I worked with. I loved the money, but I was so relieved to not be holding up a craft product and talking about how nutritious it is.
Right.
That part made me really sick. And there was probably the last 7 years of the show, they had just kept cutting the amount of time that we could be creative and put more and more advertising in it.
Right.
And so it was a shell of its former
Right.
former self. So I was actually relieved when I'm sure there was a little small part of me that was like, ooh,
Right.
what's going to happen? But then I just go, okay, you can't control it. Just try to bring the best attitude and energy that you can. And so far it's worked out. I mean, I make way less money now than I
Right.
used to, but money kind of stopped being something that drove me years ago. And I just love doing the podcast. It feels like everything I've gone through in my life has led me to be able to do this thing that brings me so much
I love
meaning
it.
and purpose.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's such a great podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Miss Judy Gold.
Do you have a lot of friends?
I do, mostly because I'm in so many support groups. Or
Right.
I should say I go to so many support group
Right.
meetings. And those are the people that I found that are that I connect to because
Right.
we get vulnerable, we laugh about our fucked up shit, and we're honest with each other. I mean, within the first 10, there's no small talk. There's no, how's the weather? It's just, God, I feel like killing myself today.
Oh, I know.
Right out
I
of the
do
gate.
that. I say that all the time. And then that's why it's called Kill Me Now, my podcast, because I'm always like, kill me now, kill me now. There are a lot of guy comics who, as you know, don't talk about feelings. There's no feeling whatsoever. Do you, I mean, it's like this taboo thing. Like, I find it really interesting that you're so in touch with all this shit. Are most of you? So you say most of your friends are in that category?
Yes.
Is it hard for you to relate to this is all right. I remember when I was depressed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was really deep into it, at first I couldn't leave the house, but then if I had to go out, and I'd be looking at everyone like, you don't know, you don't understand, you don't know, like you're just, like it was so weird, it was such a disconnect from the real world of
Looking at everybody like they got to figure it out. And
right, yes, yes.
I would always hear, not literally, but I would always feel that 60 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Like here's the 3 thoughts I would think every morning when I woke up. You slept too late, you're a lazy piece of shit, and your life is passing you by.
Right. Like, I have diurnal depression. Do you know what that is?
No.
I know something about depression that you don't know. Yeah! Yes! What do I win, guys? What do I win? Nothing. All right, so Williams, I've said this. You know why I keep saying I've said this? Because if I ever repeat there's one person who wrote to me. One person out of everyone who's written to me after my podcast who said, when you repeat a story, it's like we've already heard it. It's like one person. And now every time I say something that I think I said before, I think of that fucking...
I do the same thing. Yes.
So,
what's the depression called?
So William Stryan had nocturnal. So he at night, he couldn't function at all. And I had diurnal. So during the day, I could not function. And then I had a teeny respite, like only a little bit, not even a lot, but when the sun goes down. And I realized that I've always felt like that since I'm a little kid, that the daytime is fraught with anxiety and the night
and responsibility
and executive function. I have no executive function, but of course I don't find this out until I'm an adult. And that I'm not bad. I'm not a bad person because I have piles, and I'm not a bad person because I didn't clean out my closets for or I have this stupid dresser in my son's room that I got because Henry, my older one, was like, you don't even, like, he could really dig me. So this was years ago. He's like, and you don't even have it because the dresser broke, and you didn't even buy a dresser. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the worst mother because I didn't buy a dresser. I didn't buy the dresser. You're so horrible. You're so horrible. So then I buy this dresser. And at one point, and it's like, one of those custom made with the Gothic furniture, whatever. And because you're a woodworker. So I was like, I said, oh, Ben, the little one, we'll stain it together. That was years ago, and we've never stained it. And I swear to God, if I were to think about it, I'd want to throw up.
My house and backyard is a crime scene of unfinished projects.
Uh-huh. And you don't feel guilty?
I decided to accept myself, or at least that part of myself,
right,
a couple of years ago, and it's the greatest decision I ever made. I wish it was different, but I don't obsess wishing that it was different.
Right, that's my thing. Like
one of the biggest lies we can tell ourselves is that we can beat ourselves up into being different.
Right.
No, it's the exact opposite. At least my experience has been, is having compassion for myself actually brings me more peace, and then I can be in a better space to potentially do that thing. I haven't with the unfinished projects, but other things in my life.
Right.
It is the worst lie that we tell ourselves, and a lot of times that voice is somebody else's voice.
Right.
In our head.
It always is. I think it always is.
A parent or society's messages or whatever.
Bigfoot, Sasquatch. I know I've said this before. Here we go. But I couldn't walk by a schoolyard until I was in my 30s. So if I was like walking down, Amsterdam Avenue, and I would like cross the street, or I'd put on headphones, or you know what I mean? It was awful. And it took me till my late 30s to realize if someone was laughing behind, like walking down the street and laughing, it wasn't at me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've still had some, like once in a blue moon, like if I'm on my bike and there's some kid walking in the street and I'm like, excuse me, and they're like, oh, like say something like that. And it still
hurts
beyond.
Yeah.
Like I want to cry. You know what I mean? So, and it's so interesting because I look at my younger son, who's 6'5" and has a 16 shoe and plays basketball and is funny and quirky and the most popular kid at school. And I was the most unpopular kid, because I was big, and it's just,
a lot
it's fascinating.
easier for a boy to be big.
Oh,
though.
You're not kidding. There was one thing, and then, we could, do you want to interview me? Like, do you want to go back and forth?
I want to do them separately, though.
Okay. You once said that knowing, like, because I have these horrible feelings, right? And this is something I totally relate with you, is that you once said that knowing these feelings are temporary is what gets you through.
Yes. Especially with depression.
Right. So, like, I'll wake up. Now I've gotten to the point where I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, boy, it's going to be a bad day. And sometimes I call my girlfriend and at work, and I'm like, I'm having a hard time. And then I just want to cry. And then, the sun goes down and I'm like, oh, okay, I made it. Whoo, But I like I was saying before, it's like I look at people who I think are emotionally healthy, and I'm like, what does that feel like? It's so weird. I'm like, all right, these were two examples. Well, first of all, when I was pregnant, I had euphoria instead of depression. Mm. And it was the only time, and I was not on any meds because I was pregnant. It was the only time in my life I ever felt and witnessed, like, oh, this is what normal people feel like.
This is why people smile.
Yeah. And it was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, I don't care. I don't care. I have a purpose in life, and it was unbelievable. But it was fucking temporary. But I had a friend who used to get up, like I'd stay at my friend Bob's house, and he had this boyfriend who would get up, and he went to college, he had a degree, but he'd just like get up, he'd look through magazines, and he worked as a waiter and went to the gym, and like he'd get up in the morning and he'd have his coffee and just looking at a catalog and watching TV. And I'm like, don't you feel like you need to be doing something? Like I would stare at him going, like, how, like, how do you fucking do that?
What's the catch?
Yeah. Like what? Like, are you, and you don't want to kill like, I can't believe people like that don't want to kill themselves. And then do you have the I have a couple of people where I think if I end up like them, I will, like, someone has to shoot me.
Much less today, because one of the things, the work that I've done in support groups is really closely looking at things I've done in the past, how I viewed myself, how I've treated others, how I've treated myself, and seeing my flaws, not in an obsessive, beat myself up way, but in a reflective, I see a pattern here. Like the biggest pattern I uncovered was that my biggest fear in life is that my life will be forgettable. And I saw how often coming from a place of fear that would be the case caused me to step on other people's toes, to treat myself badly. Having compassion for myself, seeing, okay, you were just a kid that wasn't seen, and you're afraid that's going to be repeated throughout your life. I had compassion for myself, and then I was able to have compassion for other people because I didn't see them as threats to that becoming true. That my life would be forgettable. And so it has allowed me to just not care as much.
I love that.
In a good way.
I don't care either.
A lot of work.
Me too, but I feel like I'm at this age where, like, you know what? I have no fear now. I lived in fear, always. To the point where I remember my head would get. Did you ever get the rush of blood to your head because you're so fucking scared?
Your face gets hot.
Yeah.
Your scalp tingles.
Yeah. And so I feel like now I've been through so much shit that you can't do it. Like, I'm Teflon. Yeah. You cannot fucking. My parents are dead. You know, you
don't care that you killed them?
Well, they deserved it, and it's like.
But just because they gave you a sideways glance, I thought was
it was
impulsive. On your part?
It was
premeditated.
That's it for this episode. Do you have any siblings?
I have one brother. We had a cousin who was raised with us, who was 13 years older than me, who was like a brother.
Right.
But that's it.
And are you close with your brother?
We're really kind of different people, but we love each other, and but we don't have like really emotional talks
right
with
your real
people in my support groups and stuff like that.
But what does he do?
He's a lawyer.
Oh, so he doesn't have to be emotional. He can just figure out the facts and attack that way.
Right.
What kind of lawyer is he?
He works for a nonprofit, but
that's good.
Yeah, he's worked for different firms before.
And are your parents alive?
Mom is, Dad's not.
Oh, and I loved your Father's Day poem.
Oh, my God, you do research. That is so impressive.
It is?
Yeah.
I'm just a nerd. I'm a nerd.
Well, it's very flattering as a guest to know that somebody took that much care. When I interview you, it will be just the opposite. You will have to remind me of your last name.
That's great. I'm not available for that. I just remembered. So, was it hard when your father died?
Actually, the worst part was I felt bad that I didn't feel more. My dad was a really hard guy to get to know.
He was an alcoholic.
He was an alcoholic. He got sober for a little while.
In 93.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, we checked him in on Christmas Eve.
Yes, I read that, yeah. That's why you love the holidays.
That's why I love. That's how the Christmas poem came out of it. My dad was an easy guy to be around because he gave you your space, but he also really wasn't that interested. He was trapped in his head. He had a really awful alcoholic father. My dad was also an alcoholic, though very high functioning.
Right.
And he was just trapped in his head. And I know he loved me as best he could. But I felt really sad that I didn't feel
Right. Don't you look at people now, like, who you know, right, who have kids, and you see the same pattern Like, don't you want to go save that
I do.
child and punch
do.
the person in the face?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why I love doing the podcast is because sometimes I'll get emails from kids.
Yeah.
And I'm able to express that perspective that an older person who's been through it and come out the other side can have, and then the kid will hear it and feel validated that somebody
I get a lot from the gay
understands.
kids, yeah.
Yeah. They need so much support.
I know.
It's brutal.
It's like no one asked to be born.
Yeah.
So we ask everyone these. I have to ask you two questions. One, which I know the answer. One is, what pisses you off the most? It can be anything. Like makes your blood boil.
Sean Hannity.
Really?
Yeah. I think because he reminds me of the guys I went to grade school who have never changed and go to church but are
biggest asshole fucking piece.
Mean spirit in their worldviews.
Right.
I'm sure he's a great neighbor. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's a guy who would pull over and help you change your tire.
Right.
But they don't see the repercussions of
they're destructive.
Denying climate change, being opposed to, maybe he's not opposed to gay marriage, but there's a world.
Even if he says he is, you know he's not.
Yeah.
It's like, how is Rick Santorum opposed to gay? I mean, he's 40, whatever. Like these people, Marco Rubio, you know they're not really opposed to it. It's so fucking annoying. Now you got me.
Yeah, so that
so what if Sean Hannity showed up, like came in here right now, what would you say?
You know what? I would probably be nice to him. One of the things I've learned in the last 15 years is how to express myself diplomatically.
Right.
Now, if I have a hockey stick in my hand, it might be a little different.
Right.
But
like, do you think you're physically violent?
When I play hockey, I can get to that place, but you know, I do get in hockey fights sometimes, but much less than I used to, and I usually apologize afterwards.
Wow. My son loves hockey. My older son.
It's the most beautiful sport.
I can't see the puck.
Even on high def? You haven't watched on high
when
def?
we go to a game.
Really?
Yeah, and we're looking there, and I'm like, where's, you know, like, it's in, and I'm like, I didn't even fucking see it. It's so fucking fast. And why do they beat the shit out of each other? That's the thing.
It's actually very complicated why they fight.
Yeah, I want to know why that is a part of the sport.
Very rarely is a fight because two guys are really mad at each other. Mm-hmm. It's how they police the game. There's two types of players. There's a role player, and then there's guys who are considered talent players. Skilled players is what they call them. And there's an unwritten rule that the skilled players are not to be fucked with physically.
Right.
Because every team needs their skilled players to be healthy. So if you hit the other team's skilled player really hard, somebody is going to fight you. Mm-hmm. So the person that is fighting you
is a role player.
And most of those guys dread being an enforcer. There's much less now than there used to be.
So what do you mean hit? Like
check, knock off their feet.
But that's part of the game.
It's not as much as it used to be. It's a much less physical game than it used to be. A lot of it is because of awareness about concussions.
Right. So Bobby Orr was not a role. He was a skilled.
Oh, the greatest defenseman that ever played the game. He changed the game. He changed the way.
Did he get beat up?
He did, but he also was not somebody that wanted to be protected, and it's why he didn't have a long career. Because
did he beat anyone up?
He got in fights. He was a physical presence, but he didn't have to fight because
I just think it's so fucking weird that they fight.
Here's a stat about Bobby Orr. There's a thing called plus minus. If you're on the ice and your team scores a goal, your stat, you get +1. If you're on the ice and your team gets scored against, you're -1. So at the end of the game, you'll finish, maybe +1, -2. At the end of the season, the best players, the stars, will finish the season maybe +25, maybe +35.
Wow.
Bobby Orr finished one season +124.
No way.
+124, and he led in scoring. a defenseman had never led in scoring.
Wow.
He was, and probably the greatest skater that the game has ever seen. I mean, he was.
I hate ice skating. I hate ice skating. Now, I know the answer. Well, we always ask, if our guests are on any mental health meds.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how long you got?
So, and a lot of them are like, no. And I'm like, So you are on meds.
Oh, yeah. They saved my life. I started in 2000.
Okay. So what are you on?
It's a little embarrassing, and I need to wean off a couple of them.
I just weaned.
Did you?
I weaned off of Ritalin, and I'm only taking half my trazodone dose.
I, for the longest time, was on Wellbutrin, Celexa.
I'm on sorry.
Wellbutrin, Celexa, and Buspar.
Oh, Buspar, I was on that. And not Celexa, yeah.
And then my shrink added Lamictal, which helped.
Oh, yes, Lamictal. I was on that.
And then I felt myself starting just not being depressed, but just being blah.
Right.
And feeling like I can't wait to go back to bed.
Right.
And he had suggested, you just mentioned Ritalin. What's the other one? I can't believe
Concerta?
No.
Adderall. Yeah.
And, being a recovering addict alcoholic, I said no.
No.
And then I met somebody who was also sober, been sober a long time, and she said, you should consider it because I started taking it, and it's helpful with treatment-resistant depression, and it doesn't feel addicting to me, and you should consider giving it a shot. And I thought, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And it has been a game changer. My bed no longer feels like a magnet that is constantly pulling me back. And
the Adderall?
The Adderall was the game
changer. Do you get heart palpitations?
I did maybe the first 3 weeks, and those have gone away as I've acclimated to it. But it is. I thought my
son buys them. They buy them on campus.
Yes, it's that was my fears that will people abuse it? I'm going to want to abuse it, but I'm not even on the highest dose that I could be. So, and I don't crave. Doing anymore.
So nothing for sleeping? What do you take at night and what do you take in the morning?
I just fall asleep. I don't take any meds at night. In the morning, I take,
all of them.
All my meds, and then midday, I take another Adderall. But it's...
You're so lucky you could sleep.
Yes, I really am.
That's a good one.
Sleep has never been a problem. But the problem for me was always getting up.
Right.
I would just... I hit my snooze alarm so many times.
Oh, you can't even. You can.
But the hope is to then now wean myself off a couple of the other ones. That's our game plan with my shrink. But he wanted me to get acclimated to this one first, and then
that's awesome.
We'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm really grateful for the psychiatrist because he refused to continue to see me until I stopped drinking, and I don't know if I would have done it if he.
Really?
Yeah, that really woke me up.
How often did you drink?
Every night. But I thought because I didn't drink during the day, and a lot of times I'd only have 3 drinks, that didn't mean that I was that I had a problem. But I couldn't stop, and I forgot, or I guess didn't want to look at the fact that alcoholism is a progressive illness, and mine had progressed because I had quit once for 13 months. I thought, I can quit.
Oh yeah, I can quit. Yeah.
But
thank you, Paul, for being a guest. So where can people find your podcast?
The Mental Illness Happy Hour, and they can go to the website, which is mentalpod.com. Mentalpod is also the Twitter handle you can follow me at. Or just search for it and podcasts on iTunes. And every episode is available. I think there's 280.
Wow, and I haven't been on it, and I'm so mental.
You are going to be on it in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, baby! Thank you guys so much for listening. Henny. We'll be back very soon. I've had to travel because I have such an incredible career. And thank you all for listening. And so long!
And everything was wonderful. I'll see you soon. Thank you for the visit. So long.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with a Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.